All right, we are good to go. We are live, and I wish everyone a very good afternoon. Welcome to the 44th episode of the IET India Digital Conversations. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you are all doing well and keep safe. I'm Suman Bhaumik, your host for the series, and I lead the events development for the IET in India. But before I begin the session today, just allow me a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit about the IET and the topic that we are discussing. The Institution of Engineering and Technology, also known as the IET, is a 150 years old organization inspiring, informing, and influencing the engineering community to engineer a better world. As a global and diverse home across engineering and technology, we share knowledge that helps make better sense of the world to solve challenges that matter. At IET India, we want to grow actionable knowledge, want to solve India-centric engineering issues, and want to enhance people's lives using technology and thought leadership to drive innovation. I have a short video with me which talks about what the IET is all about and what it is to be part of the IET. Just allow me to play that.
Our world is changing.
Engineering is changing.
Society is changing.
We are changing.
We're here to inspire,
Inform,
influence,
and change perceptions.
Demonstrating how important engineers and technicians are in our lives.
Championing achievements, helping to create new technologies that enable us to thrive,
and inspiring future generations to make a difference.
Together, we discover new concepts by turning theory into practice.
create solutions to society's biggest challenges,
Share knowledge and expertise through our networks.
grow by developing new skills and capabilities,
Evolve and adapt for the future.
We are the IET.
Together, we are engineering a better world.
So that is the IET, Engineering a Better World, which brings us to today's session, which is curated by the Social Impact Working Group of the IET Future Tech Panel. And this brings to us what I feel is one of the most critical ecosystem that needs to be nurtured and scaled for a better and digital India. Yes, I am talking about creating rural innovation ecosystems, as 65% of the population, or our population rather, are still living in rural areas. This digital conversation specifically will explore the practical aspects of scaling up from a location to local communities to local geographical areas to main segments or two main segments. One is through vision and case studies of implementation through various technologies. And the second would be by creation of rural innovation ecosystems through upscaling, employment, entrepreneurship, penetration, and scaling of skill development centers. Now, let's introduce and welcome the august panel of experts who have joined us today to lead the discussion, courtesy of the Social Impact Working Group. So introducing our first speaker, Dr. Ashok Das, who is the founder and CEO of Sun Moksha, a company focused on clean technology solutions for sustainable socio-economic development of rural hinterland. Dr. Das has a decade of hands-on experience in working on rural development with state-of-the-art technology interventions in smart microgrids, renewable energy, IoT, and smart irrigation. Grounded at the grassroots, he has developed technology, solutions, and business models to address issues of sustainable rural development. His innovations have received several national and international awards and accolades. Our next panelist is Pigmented Chaudhary, who is also the co-chair of the IET Social Impact Working Group, founder and CEO of Sobus Insight Forum, a holistic ecosystem created to support social business innovators and ventures. An IIT Bombay alumnus, he is passionate about sustainability and is most effective when operating at the intersection of human values, social enterprise, and scalable systems. Coming to our third panelist is Mr. Varun Prabhakar, who is an agritech evangelist at Reside Incorporated. Varun has over a decade of product design and development experience in digital transformation across industries such as agriculture, pest control, and smart buildings. With an education in mechanical engineering from the University of Wisconsin, Madison, and industry experience in IoT, precision farming, remote sensing, and crop modeling, he has created user experiences for Fortune 500 companies and marginal farmers alike. As an agripreneur, Varun co-founded Hariali Seeds, a seed farm to promote biodiversity and save endangered plant species. And finally, introducing the moderator for today's session, Rangaraj MS, also known as MSR, who is a technology and innovation leader with 40 plus years of work experience, out of which 25 years has been in domestic and global executive leadership experience. MSR has tremendous experience in being part of paradigm and transformational changes in helping organizations assimilate and adopt them. He has primarily worked in the information technology industry and have held senior management positions both in India as well as in Japan. And with that, people, I would like to thank our speakers for joining us today. And I would request MSR to start the proceedings of today's session and deliver a cracker of a session like always. Over to you, MSR.
Thank you so much, Suman, for the introduction. It is my honor and pleasure to be interacting with this august panel of Dr. Ashok Das, Varun Prabhakar, and Digvijay Chaudhary. Each of them, as we have just heard from Suman, have made significant impact and contributions in the social entrepreneurial space. Creating rural innovation ecosystems is today's webinar topic on which we shall deliberate. We will explore the need to have rural innovation ecosystems and understand the practical aspects of setting up and scaling from a location to local communities to local geographical areas. We will understand and deliberate this through two segments, as Suman mentioned, followed by a Q&A from our wonderful audience. The first segment will address the vision and case studies of innovation and demonstration in each of the three areas: location, local communities, and local geographies by Varun, Ashok Das, and Digvijay Chaudhary. In the second segment, which will be an interactive session, we will address some of the challenges of creating these rural innovation ecosystems. Challenges on operations and maintenance, financial viabilities, and user experience. It will also address on how innovation can happen at the local level to solve local problems, employment opportunities at the local village/panchayat levels, and tech-enabled skill development, among many others. To begin the proceedings with, we have Mr. Varun Prabhakar, who will share with us his experiences working at the grassroots level in implementing precision farming systems. Varun works with farmers on everything from crop selection using AI and big data to controlling inputs such as water, fertilizers, pesticides, using IoT-based solutions. He will share with us his experience on implementing these solutions and will highlight a research study on bananas conducted in a farm near Bangalore. Varun, the stage is all yours. Over to you, Varun.
Thank you so much for that answer. Let me just share my screen. Okay, are we all set? Can everybody see the presentation? Okay, I'll go ahead. So just talking about digital transformation and agriculture today in India, I think we can all agree that it is at a very nascent stage, but there is a lot happening. It's almost every week where I hear about some startup getting funded, trying to do something to improve the value chain across India. And there's a lot to be done, and there's a lot that can be done as well. So I just want to touch on this for a quick second to set the context of what's happening. So on the input side, where we look at seeds, fertilizers, and loans and insurance, the main innovation that's been happening on the physical agri inputs is basically bringing e-commerce to the forefront, making it easier, making sure that the quality of the inputs is good. Then on loans and insurance, there's a lot that's happening. One, to assess environmental risk of of growing a certain crop on a certain field, and secondly, monitoring what's happening across the season through satellites. On the farming side of things, which is where I've spent the last 3 years focusing, cultivation and harvesting, it's all about increasing yields, getting the best quality, and reducing the inputs and operations cost for the cultivation of that crop. Across the supply chain, there's a lot to do with traceability. There's using blockchain and using IoT. There's quality assessment through AI and computer vision, and on the storage side, there's a lot to do with inventory management as well. So there are startups, there are players today that are building solutions within the space. And then finally, on the retailing, on the selling side, this is where the majority of the after the, let's say, innovation has happened in India so far. And it's basically eliminating the middlemen, going directly from farm to consumer, and bringing e-commerce into the picture. So where we focus is on precision farming. So we've done that through an IoT system. The one point I'd like to make is the IoT tech required for precision farming today is actually not the hard part. The hard part is making the tech work with the agronomy and really building a holistic system. I mean, if you're looking at, let's say a precision irrigation system that just looks at how much water is going into the plant, to ensure good yield, what are you going to do about pest control? What are you going to do about fertigation? What are you going to do about the best intercultural practices? So really looking at precision agriculture, it's not just as simple as bringing tech. It's really looking at how to grow a crop and all of the things that could possibly impact the quality and are involved in the cultivation cost, and really bringing that to the forefront. So we have, within the system here, we have different types of nodes, ones that do soil moisture, ones that do soil control of an isolation valve, that controls a pump. All of that is wirelessly communicated to a gateway where all of the data goes to our cloud. We also have a weather station, which is a standalone system that can communicate directly to the cloud as well. And all of that data is accessible over a mobile app. Now, we look at things to make it as easy to install. So here are some pictures of some sensors. Everything is powered by solar in the field, so the installation is easy. So I'll quickly go into the research experiment that we're doing in collaboration with the National Research Center for Banana. This is a variety of banana called Grand 9. It's a variety of Cavendish banana. Globally, this is the largest. Cultivated variety of banana. But luckily, within India, we actually have a very large biodiversities of different banana varieties. But commercially, this is the strongest. Now, within this half-acre plot, we've split it up into 29 different experimental zones. We have 2 control zones, and basically there are 3 irrigation treatments based on soil moisture sensors and 3 fertigation treatments based on a precision fertigation schedule. And here's another picture of the field. We are towards the end of the experiment, so I'm actually very excited to share some preliminary data with you. But do keep in mind that, I mean, we are just in the beginning of harvesting, so the data is subject to change. Here's a drone shot of the field. This is when the plants were about 4 months old. I chose this one so that you can see the IoT sensors and the solar panels in place. Within this half acre, we actually have about 116 soil moisture sensors. Now, 116 in half an acre, that's really a lot, but the idea is we have to do it for the research. In a farmer's field, you're probably going to look at, let's say, 2 to 3 locations on average a 5-acre plot of land. Here's where we currently are at. These pictures are just about 2 weeks old. The bananas are ready to harvest, and from the bunches that we've harvested so far, the average yield of G9 within this area, Grand 9, is 25 to 35 kgs per bunch. We have been able to get 40 to 45 kgs per bunch. Now, just to put those numbers into context, let's say a 5 to 10 kg per bunch increase in yield because of the precision irrigation and fertigation system. Looking at an average price of 9 rupees a kg, and 3,000 plants per hectare, you can look at an increase in revenue of between 1.3 to 2.6 lakhs per hectare. So it's actually very significant what we've been able to see on the yield side. Now on the water saving side, we are able to see this one treatment zone, I3F1, irrigation strategy 3, fertigation strategy 1, give the similar number of fruits as the control, which we're looking at in these 40 to 45 kg bunches, with 68% less water. So the control is actually based on the recommended package of practice by the National Research Center for Banana. So as compared to their package of practice, we've been able to save 68% on the water saving side. So I'll end it here. There's a lot more exciting speakers and a lot more exciting topics to cover. So MSR, back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Varun, for the insightful presentation in laying out the framework for precision farming and sharing your experience in deploying these solutions. So we are at the stage where we can begin our first poll question. If it can be published, Suman. So the first poll question, as we can see, is what is the current penetration of AgTech or Agri-Tech in India today? So while I'll give you a minute to respond to this and look forward to your participation, right? So we'll approach this in a minute, right? So now that you have heard Varun, who serves at the individual level, let's move next to the community level and hear Dr. Das, who has developed energy and water solutions for the community using renewable energy, particularly solar. He will share with us his experience of implementing these systems in underserved and remote locations, and he will elucidate some challenges he encountered during his experience. Over to you, Dr. Das. But before that, just let's look at the poll results. We could close the poll. Suman? Yes, and the answer is absolutely correct with the audience who have gone with this. No, it is not. So it is actually the second one. Okay, so it is at 1%, so 33 of them who have said it. This answer is of 1% as of August 2020, and this is as published in the Ernst & Young report of 2020. Thank you for the participation, and over to you, Dr. Das. You're mute, Dr. Das. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No
thank you, MSR, and thank you, Varun, for setting the stage for me to dive in and share my thoughts with you on the community development aspect. So we have developed technologies and models primarily focused on the rural development and primarily focused on community solutions for that. So as one of the farmers in a village in Bihar told me that pani hai to kisan hai, bijli hai to roji hai. So if you really look at it, water and electricity or energy form the basis of the food water energy nexus for our villages. Of course, I'm talking it from the farmer perspective, but 70% of our villagers are in the farming. So we have developed solutions that spans across the value chain of farming, whether it is from pre-harvesting, where Varun showed some solutions. How do we irrigate? How do we put sensors? How much water to give? Which fertilizer to give? So those agri-tech innovations come in this sector. Then, of course, during harvesting, you will see there are many equipment required, and there are a lot of activities happening in that area. But it all needs energy. And then the third is post-harvest, which we will talk later. That it's not just growing, but also how do we add more value to our produce? How do we reduce the wastage of our produce, which you have seen many images, farmers, throwing out their produce on the market, on the field, because the market doesn't give them the right price. So how do we address this entire ecosystem holistically? And that is where we have tried to address this. And the energy solution is required throughout this process from beginning to the end. So our energy solutions can serve either and all across this vertical. Now, why do we think, as you said, that these solutions have to be done for the villagers? And so our main focus was that the solutions are built for rural users and farmers. It should be very simple to operate by very little training to the operators, the local youth, and it must be supported remotely by professionals to understand what is going on in the village, so that after all, technology needs to be supported, and we can provide the right technology at the right solutions or right interventions as and when needed. The remote monitoring also helps another aspect, that it gives you the information at the fingertip for all the stakeholders. There will be investors, there will be farmers, there will be entrepreneurs. They will all be interacting with this system. So how can they get information in real time so that they can come and intervene, or they can look at the metrics and say, yes, we are on the right track. And the solution must scale with the community and users. So scalability was one of the key components that we are focused on. And if you look at this, our basic principle, and that is essentially E3, we focus on entrepreneurship. So how do we create more and more jobs and employment in the village? For that, you need skilling. So there has to be education and skill component. And the third is technology, which eventually empowers the community to make their own decisions, to run their own systems, and not to depend on outside for their day-to-day operations. So this E3 forms the basis of our interventions in the villages. We have deployed this at multiple locations, both our solutions, whether the energy solutions, water solutions, or the microeconomic zone solutions. This is still in progress. This is a entrepreneurship model. This is a corporate model. This is a large farmer model. So we have deployed our solutions in various kinds of markets, and achieved. And we are at a stage that now we can roll out to the larger public. This is a story of the village that we did in the island. So this is the entire power plant that we have there. It was a 20 kilowatt power plant. Thank you. And so, if we look at, we have sort of over the years, we have created with our experience that how can we systematically transform a village to a dream that we all talk about, which is Gram Swaraj. So the community, let's look at just this island of Gudgaon. What happened here and what will happen? So we first gave stage one electricity for household and street lights so that people can read and live a better life. Then now they're working on getting irrigation so that we can grow more. It's a very vast land if you look at it, and there's a lot of agricultural field. Once we have finished that, then if there is excess produce, maybe we need a cold room, we need some food processing so that they can keep on adding the value, as I showed you the three stages of the life or the farmer's life. And once there is enough scale of all these farmers working together, then even a microeconomic zone can be created with a market linkage to the outside world. The eventually goal for us is to achieve Dr. Kalam's vision of Pura, right? If you have not seen this book or read this book, I suggest you should. Target 3 billion, where it defines what is a Pura village. How can we bring people back to the village? How can we provide urban amenities in rural areas? And urban amenities doesn't mean it has to have all the luxuries, but the basic requirements of living a decent life. If we provide that in the village, then our villages will prosper much better, and we will move an inch towards the village Swaraj or the Gram Swaraj that Gandhiji talked about. And that is the ultimate goal. So I'll stop here and let Digvijay continue after this. MSR, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Das, for engaging and illuminating presentation, an eye-opener. The concept of the Smart Pura Village framework and your experience in establishing such community solutions was so well articulated and is an inspiration in itself. Thank you very much, Dr. Das. Now is the time for the next poll question. Suman, if you could have it, please. Yes. So while the poll question is, being addressed by the audience, I would like to take my talk further. So we have heard and seen local innovation and its demonstration from Varun and from Dr. Das on innovation and scaling in a local community. Great examples, great commitment, and great demonstration. There are great ideas out there. However, there are a lot of challenges to scale them in the rural areas, like both Varun and Dr. Das would have found. The stage is now set to understand and explore these challenges with respect to innovation and scaling in the local geographical areas. These are a complex set of interconnected challenges, and I will elucidate a few of them. Before we go to that, I can quickly look at the poll. Great to see the participation. And there is no correct answer, no right answer, no wrong answer. But I think it's a good perspective that we have got out of this. Thank you so much for the participation. So as I go through, introducing some of the challenges, so the first and foremost that comes to the mind is the culture and mindset. Having people to be ready to think differently and wanting to do something different in where they are, and at the same time having the necessary infrastructure to do so. The second could be the lack of capital in terms of human capital, skilled resources with education and expertise, for example. It could be in the area of social capital, the ecosystem around you. It could be around the knowledge and technical capital, availability of information and resources pertaining to the relevant areas, whether it is agri-tech, whether it is energy or any other of the ecosystems of the Pura village, and the panchayat level and at scale. And lastly, it could be the financial capital, both access to the financial capital, which even if available will potentially be at a premium, right? Then there are challenges around inefficiency and low productivity, depopulation and brain drain from local ecosystems, people getting skilled and looking for opportunities outside. That's because they need meaningful economic prosperity in their local geographies. Then we have the potential of the challenges on the market side in the local geographies. For example, not having a critical mass of consumers, of business, and of a market connect. And last but not the least, you have successes like what Varun and Dr. Das have very clearly demonstrated. But to a large extent, they would be siloed and the shining stars or the North Stars for success. But the key is, how do we spread that? How do we have a larger number of participation and a larger number of people participating in this? Our third speaker for the day, Mr. Digvijay Chaudhary, with his hands-on experience, will walk us through what and how they have been able to make such significant strides and have been able to demonstrate potential models that can be replicated. Over to Digvijay. Your audio, Diggy. Hello? We can't hear you, Diggy. Yes, so while we wait for Digvijay to get his audio, into play, if you look at the challenges that exist, they are quite a serious set of challenges, and it is always good to see how people do respond to that. Yeah. Digvijay, we can't hear you. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. So while we wait for Digvijay to get his have a voice on what he wants to really say over here. I think if Suman, you want to put on the slides as we walk them through that. Yeah. Yes, Suman. Suman may not able to hear you either.
I think now he's trying his phone.
Yeah.
Login from his phone.
Yes, Suman. Yeah.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, Digvijay. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry about that glitch, but glad to be here with everyone now. And you can imagine I'm sitting in Bangalore in an urban area, and this is the kind of connectivity we get. So the challenges that have been highlighted by MSR are probably a subset of all the issues that are faced. Could I request you to share the screen, please, Suman? Suman, can you please share the screen? Hello.
Yeah, I think he's doing it.
Yeah.
So one of the things I can definitely, yeah, if you can blow up the, go to the first slide. So yeah, please play full screen. Yeah, thank you. So the challenge to create a rural innovation ecosystem. Next slide, please, Suma. Can you switch to the second slide? Yeah. So the rural innovation ecosystem is what you would call a wicked challenge that oftentimes you don't even know where to start. There's a whole host of issues, so many interdependent factors, independent factors, contradictory factors that you don't even know where to start with solving the problem. Therefore, there's no single solution or a single idea that can work. But what you can do is work within a framework. And the next slide, please. Before jumping into a framework that we are using, I would like to just highlight some key features that are needed by such a framework. And since we are talking to technologists, I'm going to go in a certain order. But when we actually get to doing it, we need to play the game in the reverse order. But the framework needs to have models where we need to have a clear idea whether an idea can scale up. Often the game in an urban scenario is, since the ecosystem is already ready, you start with an idea and then try to scale it up. However, we have to keep in mind that the same is not the situation in a rural area, and therefore we might have to choose between scaling up an idea or choosing ideas that can scale in the first place. So that's just a thought to carry away. Technology can be an enabler, should be an enabler, but it cannot be the centerpiece of a solution. It has to link up to a real need, else it is just window dressing or lipstick. Doesn't serve any real purpose. Entrepreneurship has to be the lever, simply because an entrepreneur is empowered. When someone becomes an entrepreneur, he or she would create not only a job for themselves, but also for 2 or 20 or 200 other individuals. And also create a culture that is more about learning to solve problems rather than waiting for someone to come and give dole. So that's very important. Sustainability. It's easy to go and create an intervention, but to kind of sustain it over a time, the solution needs to be co-created with the local ecosystem players. It has to solve important local problems. And as I said earlier, entrepreneurial solutions are the ones which could ensure financial sustainability. One cannot have a God complex that it's something that I can go and single-handedly solve. It's not really possible. If it was, then the government with all its resources and its reach could have already solved it. So collaboration is going to be a key, and it has to address the entire ecosystem. You start with the water, you need energy. You start with energy, you need capital. You start with capital, and you need the entire in a way. If you pull at one part of the problem, the entire thing comes as an interconnected entity, and that's what an ecosystem is. And in an ecosystem, if people need to engage, it has to be a win-win for all the key stakeholders. It can't be just one person or one entity takes all. Quickly through the other points, obvious things, the location has to be attractive for business in the long run, which is the starting point. You do an ecosystem where there's no possibility of a long-term attractiveness, is destined for failure. And to trigger it, you need people who have a connect with the region, whether they are from that region or for whatever reason. And most importantly, the entire thing which will make it all stick together is having a trust among the players. So as I said earlier, it actually goes in reverse. That next slide, please. We start with building trust in an ecosystem which is having the features to succeed in the long run, and uh, 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 then it can move forward. So that is the model through the Sober Center of Excellence, with a vision to create a Bharat 2.0, which is create prosperity in Bharat through rural innovation and entrepreneurship. And we do this by identifying passionate and capable entrepreneurs and then supporting them to create sustainable, scalable social businesses. Finally, very important that whatever we do needs to not just create successful businesses and entrepreneurs, but also we need to create skilled, employable job seekers, because both of them are completely interlinked. Next, please. So our first such center is in Pandharpur, Maharashtra, where we found the convergence of these important starting criteria. We are partnered with the College of Engineering called SWERI, Sri Vittal Education and Research Institute, which has already a background, so to speak, and a certain capability that we can start from instead of starting from zero. Next slide, please. So the public-private partnership, the way it has taken shape, is SOBUS has acted as the creator or the anchor for this vision, and has taken the responsibility to pull together all the key players needed for such an ecosystem. Starting with, as I said, Sweri College of Engineering, the lack of infrastructure is tackled via a well-equipped campus for tech solutions, access to human capital, more than 4,000 students and 300 faculty, and most importantly, a culture and mindset which already focuses on research, Bhabha Atomic Research Centers, Rural Human Resource Development Facility, and such other initiatives are already existing in the campus. In addition to that, the social capital that the institute commands gives us access to the local community to start interventions immediately. However, that is not sufficient. So what we have done is got access to a global network and knowledge network as well as funding through the third leg of the tripod, I would say, which is needed to make this entire ecosystem stand. The three key players is Wheels Global Foundation, which is an IET initiative for rural India, who have come in as the knowledge partner, giving access to a global network of IITians, IITs, and purpose-driven individuals. And they have also committed the seed funding for the center. Go ahead, please. We signed an MOU early this year. Let's move on. But the most important part is this is not sufficient. And the biggest player, if you were to say, to scale up any intervention like this, is the government. With the government support, ideas can scale up. Without it, they're almost, we can say, doomed to failure. And that is simply the nature of the ecosystem. Now, not only the government, the controller of most of the areas where we wish to operate in terms of the ecosystem, but also the largest funder. So we have also partnered with the Niti Aayog to get a Atal Community Innovation Center scheme, which is specifically meant for rural areas, where apart from the enablement and oversight credibility that the Niti Aayog's participation brings, they will also bring in a matching grant of 2.5 crore rupees. So between the three players, and supported by the Niti Aayog, we have the foundation on which to build. We are also in discussions with the Maharashtra State Innovation Society. We are tying up with industry and institutional partners for expertise and mentoring. IET is one such organization which has come forward with many of its members becoming active mentors in our ecosystem. The Industry Connect will also help with CSR and grants, access to investors, where the industry projects and problem statements could be the starting points for startups working out of here. Because as you know, most startups fail because they're solving a problem which has no market. But if you start with the customer in mind, it's much higher chance of success. Then I will just move quickly through this. We have created a complete ecosystem with which includes NGOs, other incubators, institutions like IIT. In particular, I should mention Sitara, the Center for Technology Alternatives for Rural Areas out of IIT Bombay, and startups like Sun Moksha, which Dr. Ashok Das talked about. We are going to take them further into the region around Pandharpur to begin with, and then targeting Solapur and then the rest of Maharashtra. We also have IET, as I said, as a core member, and a number of other partners like ARIS, which is bringing in IoT solutions. Next, please. So this is what a potential innovation funnel for Bharat could look like, and what we are doing, which tackles all the challenges, potential challenges that we can envisage in a systematic framework. It takes the rural talent, puts them through a funnel, giving them basic skills, filters the people or the candidates who can go to more advanced skills and to industry projects. This part of the funnel makes it an impact for the host institution, because at the end of it, it needs to be a win-win. What does the educational institute, and whose primary business, if you would call, is education, really get by nurturing startups? But we are building a skill ecosystem which makes the students there ready for the industry in a much better way. So there's a direct positive benefit to the institution. And using this funnel to discover those candidates who can go into innovation programs leading to social startups. And you could come into the funnel at any place. There are startups like Sun Moksha and a bunch of other successful startups which need scale up will also be accelerated via this center. And finally, the manifestation of this is expected in the next three years to come in an overall economic prosperity improving in the region through smart village implementations in partnership with foundations like East Global Foundation. So it will scale to the entire region. This is just the first of the centers that we are doing. We have 4 to 5 centers already in the pipeline with the idea to create a replicable model that can translate across the various regions of India and create a nationwide footprint, and which gives a template that Bharat, different from the urban India, the Bharat where the masses still reside, can really expect a much better and prosperous future. Next. These are just a few pictures of how we get the community together. We have called the initiative as Pandharpur 2.0 for those who can read Devanagari. And right from the local entrepreneurs to the politicians to the members of SWERI to the community at large, especially focusing on, you can see a picture where the women self-help groups are coming together. Next slide, please. In a systematic way to identify the problems and the solutions, and to integrate or tackle these in a phased manner. To next, please. To really create the impact that one of the greatest social entrepreneurs that India has produced, Dr. Varghese Kurian, in his words, India's place in the sun would truly come from the partnership between the wisdom of its rural people and the skill of its professionals. And we hope by focusing on rural entrepreneurship and innovation, use of appropriate technologies. This is very critical. Just cutting edge technology is not the solution. Appropriate technologies relevant to the local problems. And then the last is creating prosperity in the region. Using this as the 4 pillars, we could hopefully create a model for a rural innovation ecosystem in India for Bharat in the coming years. We invite all the IIT members to contribute in whatever manner with their skill expertise to create a robust Bharat, which is a dream that a father of the nation, Gandhiji, has seen for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Digvijay, for walking us through the wonderful Pandharpur initiative and seeing so much progress in that and a sense of reality with this very ecosystem, and demonstrating how the challenges we had elucidated earlier. Many of those have been successfully rolled out and are operational there. You have shown through the above examples how you have been able to scale through entrepreneurship models and addressing the underserved areas, and look forward to the dream of a Bharat 2.0. So this brings us to the end of the first session, where we were able to present both the local community and a local geographic implementation and a model for scaling. This brings us to the second session, which will be an interactive session in trying to address some of the challenges. I can hear my voice back, so is there somebody's? Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes. So I'll begin the first session with a question addressed to begin with Dr. Das, and then I will open up to the others. So what kind of support will be required by the farmer, by your local community for operations and maintenance, and how is this support got? Are there some kind of operation and maintenance contracts? So what is the model of doing this operations and maintenance, Dr. Das?
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you. That's a good question. And as I mentioned, in the passing, that or we must emphasize now is that our entire model is based on the rural users. We had the rural in the mind from the very beginning. That how am I going to create things that my rural people can use it, right? So as I Suman, why can't I share? It is not allowing me to share. Okay, I'm here. Yeah, so our entire model was to provide this rural infrastructure support. And that is where this model of E3 comes into picture. We created solutions that can be used by the local people. We created solutions that I can monitor remotely and support remotely to these people. And as you can see that this picture, say for example, these are the lights and meters of each these communities. But as soon as you see red, that means there is a problem. And we talk to the operator and say either you go and take a look what is happening at that location, or he also sees the same screen on his computer locally. So he can go and look at it and say, hey, there is some issues, I can go and fix it. So our goal was to create the local capacity. We do it even during the implementation, that we train the locals, we make them part of the implementation process so they know each and every component of what is being done in their village, and few of them eventually get fully trained to become operators. Now, to train them, we needed a place for training, and that is where the concept of living laboratories we started. We created it at a village where everything that I am going to implement in the village is replicated. There is a model of that same technology in that campus, and it is live. Like we created a small microgrid within the campus, which has grid, which has solar, which has biomass, and then we bring the villagers to get trained in these centers, right? So the people, the same resources that we were training and we were using in the village, we brought them to the college. We showed them how things operate. They even learned to operate the software within a few days, right? And then it also provide a breeding ground for entrepreneurs that Digvijay talked about, how do we create more and more people? How do we make more and more students interested in the rural development? So this symbiotic relationship between an enterprise like Sanmuksha and an education institute created this opportunity for the students to go and look at the villages, visit the villages. They went and helped us with surveys. They went and helped us with diagnosis. And actually, at the surprise, it was a pleasant surprise that two of the students who were graduating this year, they decided that they will not go to Bangalore and get into the IT field. Rather, they will start a business to serve the rural needs. And that is the kind of thing, that is the kind of impact that comes out through this symbiotic relationship. I'll stop here.
Yeah, Dr. Das, that was a very nice example of not only providing the necessary infrastructure, but keeping that infrastructure, keeping the O&M and the necessary skill building exercises to enable that to provide that facility. Extremely nice. And I'm sure some programs and projects like this will prevent the brain drain, in the reverse order, right? Thank you so much. Varun, would you have any, inputs that you would want to share on what kind of O&M challenges and support systems that you envisage and visualize?
Yeah, see, specifically within the precision farming space, the uptime of the system is incredibly important because this is how the farmer irrigates his field and gets his nutrients to the plants as well. So making sure that as a principle of the company, we have strong support and O&M has been very key. That's easier said than done, obviously, but we've had a couple of successes by doing two things. One is going through an intermediary. So we work with NGOs in these local areas, and with them having the social capital with the local communities, it allows some level of trust that can then be built on. So what we do, leveraging the connection with the NGOs, is we look for the youth within these rural communities. We bring them on board. The first few trainings that we do it in person. But youth today is very tech savvy, and we've been able to do remote support through Google Meet and Zoom calls. And as the, let's say, users of the system scale up within a region, it becomes financially viable for that youth to make a full-time living off of this. So this didn't actually come up initially as a job creation opportunity, but it kind of turned out that way as a result of the intention of providing good service.
Excellent. I think that's that's a very nice.
I would just also like to chime in here.
Yeah, sure.
MSR, that we had a very interesting situation. One of the startups that we were helping with their growth, actually in a similar space, they were doing rooftop solar and wind hybrids in the Northeast. And they were having actually business, they had customers, they had contract, but they did not have the team on the ground for the installation and the AMCs to follow. And that is the reason they could not grow. That was on one side. So as we started to help them, I reached out to the Art of Living Foundation, which does quite a lot of work in the rural areas, including in rural development and training. And typically they have training programs for skill development. And the challenge often is because the NSDC's requirement of a certain number of placement. And sometimes those opportunities are not actually available in those rural areas. So on one side, you have the requirement of human resource. On the other side, there's this human resource, but they don't have opportunities. So the simple role that Sobers played was to connect the two. And in doing so, it became a win-win for, so there are resources being put in, even those resources, if they're just better connected, it could result in something much more impactful.
Awesome. Because this gives this gives a lot of opportunity for both skilling and getting a set of resources from implementation to operations and maintenance. And like all three speakers have said, it gives a chance for livelihood, specialization, and wanting to continue in their area that they are. This is excellent. So that gives a nice segue into the next question that I would like to debate on. So what are the financial viabilities of the systems and solutions, right? And are there any schemes for receiving grants, subsidies from the government? And is this a sustainable business model? Because I think that's very important. So, Digvijay, would you want to start on that?
No, so that's both my.
Is it possible for you to turn on your video, Digvijay? Because it looks like that.
It's already on. I can see myself. I don't know about the others.
No, we are not able to see it. Yeah.
I don't know. Today is a bad day for.
That's fine. Please continue.
This is the third device I'm on.
Yeah, I think we can see you. Yeah, please carry on.
Okay. So I've been through the three devices today, but hopefully everything's working now.
Yeah.
So the question about financial feasibility, so that's always the big challenge. And I really admire the amazing work that entrepreneurs like Dr. Ashok Das, Varun, and so many others we are connected with are doing. However, there is a serious challenge of sustainability. So the reason we exist actually is why we decided to create Sobus was to make sure that was the point of planting a seed which becomes a sapling, and takes all the resources to become a sapling, but doesn't grow into a tree and bear fruit. In my view, even that resource invested to make it a sapling is a waste. It needs to go through the entire cycle. So, in addition to the structuring and the kind of players we are bringing in, one of the reasons to kind of work with the Niti Aayog and others is there is a lot of support from the government in terms of supporting incubators as well as startups. And in the first stage, through the Niti Aayog, we're expecting to get significant funding. 2.5 crores is a lot of money, and coupled with the matching grants that we have committed to raise. It will take care of the operations of the center itself for the next 5 years. So that gives us a base from which to problem solve and to build on. So that sustainability of the center itself is assured. It allows us to then go further to take ideas through the life cycle, take it to the funding schemes of the government, of which there are many. At the same time, there are impact investors out there, but for all of them, always the thing is, what is the prototype? Is there a proof of concept? Is there a product market fit? So the center will help to kind of mitigate those initial risks. We are also looking at, actually, this is very interesting, many of the traditional businessmen in various areas, and this was a revelation for me too, are looking to diversify. They are seeing the technologies coming in and disrupting so many other areas. Internet is prevalent, and they are struggling. The medical shops in Pandharpur area are struggling with the online vendors. So everyone's antenna is up that there's disruption coming. So many of the people who are in traditional industries are looking to diversify their portfolio, if you can say, for their next generation. So I've had people coming to me that, भैया हमारा जो नेक्स्ट जनरेशन है उनको ये सब समझता नहीं है टेक्नोलॉजी, कोई ऐसा बिजनेस है क्या जिसमें आप ये कर सकते हो? And so we are actually creating a bank of angel investors also locally. So it's a wide spectrum, but I just wanted to kind of share some nuggets from my experiences.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Das. You've been around and tried many things for so long and successfully implemented. So, what is your view and what is your experience that you have seen with respect to the financial viability, need for support, and so on? So, could you throw some light on that?
Yeah. So, as Digvijay pointed out, it is the hardest part. Okay. How do we make this sustainable? So let's say I will go by the products or the solutions that we have. Right? So if we take microgrids, it's not viable commercially. Period. It has been proven by multiple people, and now the government said that it's electrified, so there is no more government support. So India is electrified. but we all know how much electrified it is. So as per se, microgrids are, we are also working in Rwanda, other African countries. Everywhere, this is an infrastructure that is essentially a government job. And we are trying to fulfill that job, and it's very hard to compete. I cannot compete with the grid electricity if I have to create the entire infrastructure. So this has to be somehow funded, whether it is grant funded, whether it is CSR funded, but some funding needs to be realized there. And we have really looked at multiple kinds that the funding can come into picture. And see, for example, all businesses, this business model has to depend on multiple sources of funding. This is my enterprise, right? So it could be some equity from the entrepreneur or from the community. There could be some CSR, some grants, there could be debt, and there could be crowdfunding, right? So there are various ways of creating the funds to sustain such models, right? And this is specifically true if we want to build the whole infrastructure like microgrid or microeconomic zone, right? And what is microeconomic zone? We built the microeconomic zone to make these more sustainable. So while in the microeconomic zone, you will have, say at a panchayat level, you need scale. If we don't have scale, these models don't sustain at all, right? So in order to make scale, we have to create a hub and spoke model. So microeconomic zone becomes the hub. The villages around it is at the panchayat, and the villages around it become spoke, supplying or providing the raw material and providing inputs to this microeconomic zone. And there is a market linkage to add value, to fetch money and sell these products to the market. Because any of these, any microeconomic, any of the entrepreneurship that we want to create, it cannot be just for energy, right? It is, these are the various small entrepreneurs. They need scale. They need to get to the market. And that is where this concept of hub and spoke will work. And we this is Jharkhand, where we are still in progress. And I have presented this to the US. Even there, the same model works, right? So this is a scalable model where you have a hub and you have a spoke, and that is how you make these things work. And a various, as Digvijay also pointed out, multiple government initiatives need to come together to make it happen. It's not, so far everybody is working in silos. Unless we all of it work together, it's very difficult to achieve the scale that we are looking at, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think that's a great model that you presented and talked about and visualized it. And that's more important. And in the interest of time, I would just take one more question and open it out to the house, and I will just direct this to Varun, and quickly if others want to chip in. As so while we talked about O&M, we talked about financial viability. Okay, so what has been the user experience so far with such systems in India, and if you've got any other perspective outside India too.
I'd like to talk about one project that we're doing, which is a watershed advisory project in Tumkur, which is close to Bangalore. Basically, the idea there was we were brought in to help farmers with crop selection, with planting date, with their package of practice. We installed soil moisture sensors there for irrigation scheduling. We had a weather station for local weather advisories. And the first year that we were there, was really just building trust with the farmers and collecting information from them. So we really went in, we spent a lot of time with them, we listened to them. We collected a lot of data on the local cultivation practices and growth and soil type. So I think because they saw us working in the field within the villages, and understood that advisories that we were giving them were actually based on their local package of practices and their local situation. We started to gain trust only in the second season. Right? So in the second season, now we actually have farmers, one, using the smartphone apps. That being said, a lot of the time, kids that are using apps and giving the advisory to their parents. But then also farmers coming directly to us and asking us what variety of ragi should I plant because I had missed the beginning of the season and now it's in the middle of the season. So our user experience has, what I can say is it's been good, but it's taken longer than we would have liked, and it has required a lot more, let's say, in-person capacity building activities.
You're the mute, MSR.
Yeah.
One quick thing I would like to add, Varun, we had a kind of an interesting experience because when we said we are bringing this ecosystem to the areas that where we are working, we actually had people coming with a very unrealistic expectation, like we are going to come in with a magic wand and just give stuff. And that is something also which is a huge challenge towards the culture and mindset, because finally at the end of it, without getting into the politics of it, the population in the rural areas has also got used in a to working less hard because stuff is given. So the user experience for us has been a challenge to kind of to begin with, to set the thing right. We are not going to come in and come with a magic wand. We are not going to give stuff. We will help you to succeed, but we are not going to give you stuff. We will give you knowledge, we'll give you support, but you'll have to work hard also. So that was something which was a little bit of a initial thing, but it's helped us to kind of filter through the people we want to work with, so that they're more willing to take responsibility. And that's the group of people you're working with.
If I may add, dovetail into what Digvijay said, that is precisely the model that we started with. Like, our motto is empowering lives and catalyzing development. I am not there to do the whole development. I cannot. We can provide you with certain help. We can give you certain inputs that you need. We can give you water. We can give you electricity services, or we can bring these things to you. But then you have to work and you have to pay for it. In every village we go, everybody has to pay for the electricity. Maybe it is subsidized, highly subsidized, but they must pay to avail the opportunity. So that there has to be a revenue model. There has to be a sense that it is not free. It is not a dole. So our motto is that teach them how to fish rather than give them fish. And we have seen results on that, right? For example, in the first village that we did in Chotki, right, we saw that after we provided electricity, this one was completely unelectrified. But after we provided the electricity to them, you see the picture on the left, it's without, and on the right, there is a house here. So this person moved from city to the village after we set this up. We were working with a few youth, and then another youth who was working in the city at a hotel, he contacted us and he said, you are doing things, now I have opportunity here, can I come back and can I join you? So he joined the whole team and started working on developing his own economic opportunity and entrepreneurship opportunity in the village. So people do migrate back, right? Reverse migration is one of the key components, key goals, I would say, that rural development should have. How do we decongest the cities? And that happens, and that was very evident in last pandemic. This is one of the setups that we built in a village. And in 2019, 18-19, it went live. But at the 2020 pandemic, many of the farmers had to return. So we could see that the utilization in 2019 was much less. And the utilization in 2020 went up very high. And we started wondering how. These are all the remote monitoring that we have through which we get all of this data, right? And we realized that the increase almost increased 5 times for some of those farmers from 19 to 20. And the reason was that people came back. They had no other options. They had no other livelihood. They went back to their village. They went back to the irrigation. They now had the facility to get irrigation water, and they went back into agriculture practices. But that is what that is the catalyst, right? We did not do much. We did not say that you come back and you'll come back and you will do this. We provided the facilities and they found the right uses for that, right? Similarly, in the last village that we went in Kudgaon, the grandmother said, I want, my grandkid to be like you. So they all start to plan for the next generation. Our impact is generational. We cannot expect that we can achieve this smart village or Pura village or Gram Swaraj in one generation. Generation after generation, it has to work. We need to catalyze and we need to create hope. And that is what our main goal is. That how do we create hope in the people and empower them that they can take care of it. They are the one who will go through these various stages and achieve the final goal of a sustainable, smart community.
Thank you so much, Ashok, for indicating this. And you're actually having a live example of what we really want, of wanting the reverse brain drain to happen, acceptance of changes in ecosystem. And like you said, the idea is to teach fishing and not give the fishes, right, associated to them. And looks like these are successful models. The key is to spread them over a larger period of space. So with this, I think I'll bring to close our interactive session. Thank you so much for the set of questions, and open it up, Suman, to the audience for their questions and what they want to ask. I leave it to you. So not only have we seen the problem statements and the need for the transformation, but all of us who are in the transformation space do realize that you can create any enablement, but the key is the adoption, right? The cultural change, the mindset, and the adoption is the most important index to look at any kind of transformation. Suman, over to you.
Thank you, MSR. We have one question from the audience here. I guess there are some questions that you have put together for the panel as well. So after this, we can start with those questions, MSR. This comes from the audience who's asked, what is minimum microeconomy GDP level that we can think of for implementing Pura?
That must be to Dr. Ashok Das. Yeah.
Yes, I think I also answered. I do not know his name. He's just showing managing director.
Yeah, I think his name is not coming properly.
So, Mr. Managing Director, the minimum size is after a lot of iteration, we found out that it at village level it doesn't work. It works at a panchayat level. There has to be enough scale into the ecosystem for such economic development to take place. So the minimum is the panchayat. If you go below panchayat, it doesn't work, and that is from panchayat to the block to the district, right? So this is the whole entire you will say the value chain that we need to work on to finally reach out to the larger market. But even at the panchayat level, you have enough scale to create a market linkage. And from there, you can go to the nearest city and make that happen.
Thank you, Dr. Das. The person is Engineer Sahaya Lewis. Is just his name now. Thank you for that. I think, Mr. Lewis, your question is answered there. Now, moving on to the next questions. MSR, do you want me to pick those questions?
Yes, please do. Please do go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Just give me a minute.
Any more questions from the audience? Please feel free to share your thoughts.
Yes, please do that. If any of you have any doubts, you can raise hand, and if you want, you can share the screen with the speakers here and ask them personally. In the meanwhile, while they still pose their question, this one is there a system of selling excess generation of power to the grid? Is the first question that we want to ask the panel. Is there a system of selling excess generation?
Yes, there is. You can connect to the grid. The net metering has already come, but again, it is all depending on the local states and DISCOM. At the central level, there is a policy that yes, you can do net metering, you can feed into the grid if you have extra. Actually, the KUSUM program has one of the three components of KUSUM, or subset of KUSUM scheme is that farmers should sell excess solar electricity after pumping into the grid, and they would get paid for the grid for the selling the power. So yes, that system exists, but it all depends on the local discoms and local PPAs and local incentives.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Das, for that. Moving on to the next question, I'll also show it on the screen here. What is the role of community and beneficiaries in rural development? This is what it is.
Yes.
Take that.
Okay, why don't who wants to take? I don't want to answer all the questions. Please.
I would keep it simple. Finally, they are the community there. They are the stakeholders. The demand side is them. The supply side is them. So without them, what are we even doing there? So completely, what we have to do is basically bring in certain amounts of exposure, technology, solutioning, or connectivity. Technology connectivity, market connectivity, opportunity connectivity, skill connectivity to the group. But finally, it is for the community, by the community, of the community. That's one key essential thing if it has to work in the long term. Otherwise, you can conduct successful experiments, but you won't have a working ecosystem in the long term. Yeah.
Community is the first thing that we start with. Without that, nothing. There is no requirement. If the community doesn't want it, we get out. In fact, we have been to many villages where we went and talked about them, and they said, "Do you need something like this?" I said, "No, we are fine." Fine, then you don't need it. We move on to the next community.
True. Okay. The next one is again out in the open for any of you to take. What are the roles of educational institutes in rural development? How do they play a role in technologies for the social good? This question on the stage, on the screen.
Yeah, I can start, but I think the other panelists might have a lot more to say on this. Specifically within the role of agriculture technology, really what we're doing is just bringing technology to make agriculture more efficient. The science of agriculture is something that is so vast and it's been studied all over the world for so many years. So from our opinion, I mean, leveraging the skill set and knowledge base that exists within the academic institutions within India, and I'm specifically talking about the agriculture academic institutions, is key, I think, for any successful agri-tech startup today. You really need to understand the agronomy for it if you're going to get into precision agriculture.
So, I just have a related question. So, Arul, in your experience, right, while you answered what you answered, is, this thing of marrying the two, the technologies and the agriculture science, right? Okay, so is it that people are learning it through experience and on-field, or is there an opportunity and a possibility to, build that as a school of building that skill? Is there a opportunity, and is something like that being done?
Yeah, I think that in general, agriculture best practices in India are not followed. Okay, they're not followed by farmers, and as as technologists getting into agriculture, and I mean, I'm just speaking from personal experience, the research has been done and it's there, it's accessible, it's publicly available. So there is currently a huge gap in agriculture between the farmers' current packaging practices and the best practices that, I mean, our country has spent, I don't know how many thousands of crores like funding research on. This is one of the big known problems in agriculture.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, Suman, over to you.
I would like to kind of expand on that answer about educational institutions. See, the role what they're playing actually, I would say right now is very little, but the role can be massive. That's what education is supposed to do actually. So, but if you look at two aspects mainly, to get anything done, to solve a problem, to create a business, what you need is aspiration and you need capability. So one is to do with the kind of mindset that is cultured by the educational institutions, and second is the kind of capabilities and capacities that are built into the students. So if the aspiration is just to somehow get a degree and go to the city, if that is the aspiration that is created, the brain drain will continue. So the educational institutions become, in a way, a gatekeeper to this entire thing. And second is, it's not sufficient to just ask people to stay back. What are you doing to enable them to stay back with a productive livelihood? Because everyone aspires for a better life for themselves.
Yes.
So what are the institutions doing for that? So the aspiration and capacity building both need to go hand in hand, and educational institutions can be at the center of it. And that's why we are choosing to partner with educational institutions, because there's a secondary problem that if they get out of the educational system, the talent in a way drains away already. So from Pandharpur, they will be in a Pune or a Hyderabad or a Mumbai. So there's no one, the best potential problem solvers have already fled. So educational institutions will be critical.
Well, that is where I'm saying that it all depends on, while the educational institutions have been producing these, so-called brain-drained talent, can we bring certain aspects to it? Can you change the way we engage the students? Take them to the rural. I mean, that is what we did, right? So we have seen the impact that, yes, if we start to engage them into the development process, many, even if 2% of the students change, they say, no, I want to go back, that will catalyze the entire ecosystem. That will what will lead to domino effect after a while, right? So, and second is that, which I just touched, educational institutes are the gatekeeper. They are the ones who will pass on from one to another to another. They are there. They can carry on the knowledge. They can carry on the learnings that we had and pass it on to the next. Hey, tomorrow Sanmuksha will be there, not there. Doesn't matter. But that college is there, and they said, hey, this is how it worked, and now let's take it forward. So that is the key role that the educational institutes play and need to play. Maybe not playing today, that is different, but that is the way forward for sustainable rural development.
Thank you so much. Suman, I think we have one more question in the audience.
Yeah, we've got one question from again Mr. Sai Lewis. He wants to know if there are any ongoing community level projects in Tamil Nadu.
We have not done it, but there are 2 or 3. There was a big video about community level projects, solarization of a village. Okay. Truly transformational. We can share later those links. It is not, the point is that these community level projects have been going on for a long time. Smart village of Gujarat, right? There are 2 towns in Gujarat, they created something. There are 2 towns, one town in Jharkhand, they created. So there have been efforts on creating these community level smart, sustainable development of the community across India. It's not just one place. But we need to bring scalability. Again, that community level project stays there. It has not, you know, gone out and become viral. So how do we make those projects viral, right? So there is a lot to be done, and it's not just about providing technology and solution, but also about, marketing, bringing them, giving visibility. How do we show others that, hey, this can be done, and now it's your turn to get it done.
So we've come to the end of this session, Nisar. Why don't you take this moment and summarize this entire bit for our audience?
Yeah. So I think it's thank you Suman, and thank you Varun, Dr. Das, and Digvijay. I think we said we would deliberate around building the rural ecosystem for innovation and scaling. Hopefully, the session has presented both demonstrated successes and demonstrated frameworks and models, and there has been learnings that which the people participating in this webinar would have taken away. So it is very clearly that there is that opportunity, there is success, there is frameworks. The idea is to take it and adopt this and spread it to a much larger ecosystems, and get Digvijay's dream of Bharat 2.0 a reality. Yeah? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks all.
Thank you. But before we close for today, I would like to thank all of you, obviously all the speakers, for making this session so insightful. MSR, Varun, Digvijay, Dr. Das. I'm sure some of these categories, like you rightly said, can be the first step towards driving this innovation and addressing some of these challenges for the rural ecosystem. Also, there are certain members I would like to thank from the Social Impact Working Group who have worked very, very hard to put together this session and have all the invitations rolled out as we see them today. So we already have the chair of the working group, Digvijay, and few members like MSR and Varun in the panel. There are a lot of them in the audience, like co-chair Mr. Indrajit Chatterjee. Then we have members like Ashwin Saroop, Shriya Jayaraman, Resha Patel, and Shekhar Priyadarshi, Atul Bhatnagar. I don't think he's there with us today. But thank you to all of these special people who have made this session possible. I thought I would get all of you on stage, but it will take more time for me to send the invites to each one of you and get you on stage. So I just want to say this. And to all the people there who joined us today for this session, we will have more questions regarding any of these discussions around social impact and rural innovations. Do write to me at the IET, or write to the Social Impact Working Group at digvijay@superscience.org. It's already in the chat. Or you could write to us and we can connect you with the working group to let you know about what else the working group is doing, and how you can be a part of it, and you can probably help nurture a better ecosystem together. And last but not the least, the festivities have already begun with Laboratories and Durga Puja, which have already started off. So it's a very, very celebratory and busy week next week. Everyone, I'm sorry, there is the fifth speaker who's been speaking for a long time at my place. Sorry for that. But all of you do have a wonderful time. Be cautious, stay safe, and I'll see you again on the 22nd of October now with the next session, which is in partnership with Siemens, talking about driving sustainability through technology, which is also a major subject and key area that we touch upon. So until then, please do take care and stay healthy, stay safe. Have a great weekend and happy Dussehra in advance. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.